So welcome to another episode of Speaking the Bare Truth. How are you, Jayden?
Good, very good. I mean, it's unfortunate that we're in a pretty bad predicament right now as we're recording this. It's Melbourne's sixth lockdown, and we still have no idea when we're coming out of it, which really sucks.
It does. I hope this, whoever's listening to this episode, our listeners, hope you're doing okay. I know it's a really tough time, but hopefully this episode can be a bit of escapism for just, a bit of your day. I guess the topic we're going to be talking about today is a bit of, daydreaming. I think I kind of consider it daydreaming, kind of day traveling, when you sort of sit in your daydream and you think of places you'd like to go to. So today we're going to be talking about the top 5 places we'd like to visit before we die, from a point of view of an art pilgrimage. So a place that you actually travel to because of the art that you want to see when you get there. And I also like top 5. Like I like lists and things. Like I know lots of people do like their top 5 lists.
Yes.
So Jade and I thought we would try this out as a topic. I thought, Jayden, maybe we could start with our number 5. And sort of, let me know would you like to start by letting me know what's your top 5? What's your number 5 on your list of places you'd love to go to see some art?
Yeah, no, sure, I can start. I think, when I was thinking about this topic, I was thinking about, like, for me, when I think about art, pilgrimage, I can't even pronounce that word.
It's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it?
And, I think about, like, for my favorite artists, for me, I always love, for me, one of the things as when we're all like talking about, like, for example, self-portraits and portraiture, when we're talking about the artist becoming and going into another world, for me, sometimes I would love to think about, like, what was going through the artist's head. So for one, I'll start with, for me, one of my biggest inspirations was Da Vinci. One of the biggest, for me, is one of the biggest geniuses in the last 2,000 years, without a doubt in my head. When I was in traveling around Europe, I was in Venice. And for people who don't actually know, Venice was one of his places that Da Vinci lived for a part of his life. And, for me, I would love to, one of the things that I never got the chance to do, I never got the chance to see the Last Supper and all these other areas that Da Vinci lived. I would love to have gone to, like, the places where Da Vinci would create his works, like in the cities that he was always around, So for me, like, going around Venice and all that sort of thing was one of those things that was quite interesting because, when you actually think about it, you just think to yourself, like, for me, I was thinking going, man, like nearly 400, 500, 600 years ago, Da Vinci would have been walking these roads himself, he would have been finding inspiration through what he created, through his studios, through what he would see out the window. And so for me, like, when I think about, like, my places I would love to go to, I would love to be, one of the things is going in the artist's footsteps, like thinking about what these people were thinking, like what they would be seeing with their own eyes. Obviously, it's really hard when, this happened 600 years ago, but, like, you would get to still have a bit of an idea of, like, what they could be thinking and, what was going through this person's head. I think
definitely.
for me, that would be one of the things where I'm kind of like, man, I would have loved to have seen what was going through Da Vinci's head while he was coming up with all these theories, these old architectural designs, because, he was a multitasker. He was like one of the biggest multitaskers ever. Everyone thought he was crazy, but when you think about it now, 500-600 years later, he was a genius. He was without a doubt a genius.
Oh man, and multiple things, not just art, like in science and technology and architecture, and incredible.
He studied anatomy a lot as well. But I think for me that would be my
number 5. Wow, I definitely, like, I've been to Venice. I went to Venice in 2016, but I didn't get to see the Last Supper because it's one of those things that they sell out tickets like months in advance, and I missed out. But hopefully one day in the future, I agree. I would love to see the Last Supper. But yeah,
Yeah.
walking the streets of Venice, you feel like you're in, sometimes when you're walking down those streets, and you know how they've got a million little bridges that are so sweet. You feel like you're kind of going back in time in some places. Like, so yeah, definitely going to those old cities makes you feel like you're closer to the artists. Like you said, you know, you feel like you're seeing what they're seeing, and feeling what they're feeling, walking on the streets of the town that they lived. So yes, good one to start with, Venice. Definitely, I'm sure Venice is, you know, on a lot of people's lists of places I'd love to go to in their, you know, to visit. I think, yeah, for me, my number 5 would be Monet's garden, which is in yes, in Giverny, which I hope I pronounced Giverny correctly, in France. It's not far from Paris, so it's a short, you know, I don't know how long, but it's sort of like a short journey from Paris to visit this beautiful place. So Monet lived there, like at this beautiful place from 1883 until when he died in 1926. And like I've, you know, seen this place in books, and I'm sure anyone that loves Monet's work probably maybe, you know, you're familiar with his work. You're familiar with his amazing lily, you know, his lily masterpieces, water lily masterpieces, and his Japanese bridge paintings. He did these paintings while he lived in this amazing place with this amazing garden. He actually said that my garden is my most beautiful masterpiece, which I think is really lovely. So I wish, you know, I have been to Paris. I've been fortunate. I've been twice, but unfortunately I didn't go to see Monet's garden. I really would like to. So that's on my list of places to go to.
And his images were spectacular. Like, you know, he created just a very unique beauty in his work. Like, you know, when you see a Monet, you kind of go, oh my gosh, that's Monet, you know? Yeah, it's like, it was very specific what he was creating, and, you know, something absolutely incredible. And I think that for me, I didn't realize that. Like, that was actually news to me, that I didn't realize that was actually his garden that he lived in, that he would see every day, because it looks spectacular. I'm like, man, if I had a garden like that, I would be able to get through lockdown a lot easily.
Oh gosh, yes. Having that kind of sanctuary, like having a garden like that would be amazing right now, wouldn't it? It's just, I think it's really sad in his later years. I think his eyesight was failing. And when you see his water lily paintings towards the end of his life, because he painted them, you know, as we know, like over and over again. It was just like a motif in his work that was really, obviously his garden was so important to him. But it's really sad that towards the end of his life, when he was painting, you could just see like the brushstrokes got a bit more chaotic because of his eyesight. Like he was, which is kind of, it is sad, but he left us with an amazing legacy of beautiful paintings that you know, a lot of people admire to this day. So yeah, definitely, if you get to go to Paris, get to go to France, make a side trip to visit Monet's garden, I think it would be a worthwhile trip to make.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because I was in Paris back in 2017 and I didn't realize that his garden was in Paris. I must have.
It's just on the outskirts. Yeah, apparently it's sort of about northwest of Paris. So I don't know if it's like, you know, it's a really short journey. I don't even know if it's an hour away or how far away it is. But yeah, definitely worth the effort. I guess there's so much to see in Paris. Like there's so much to see once you're there. You probably have to really think, oh, okay, if I'm going to leave Paris to go somewhere else. But definitely we'll be going back one day. I hope once it's like safe to travel, but we can travel in our minds and our imaginations, because there's a lot. The good thing is we do have amazing images online of these places that we can, you know, try to virtually visit in our minds while we're going through this tough time. But yeah, I guess now, Jayden, what's your number 4? What would you now like to say is your number 4 on your list? Your top 5?
I'd probably have to say, same as with Da Vinci, I would love to do kind of a bit of a Salvador Dalí kind of pilgrim.
Oh, that would
Yeah,
be
like,
incredible.
oh my gosh, like you think about that guy and the legacy he left behind. Like I know that, I've watched so many documentaries about him, and he used to live in this mansion. Like there were clips of his incredible mansion he would live in where he would sometimes create some of his works. And I just think to myself, I would love to just explore that, just go be inside his mansion, look inside this beautiful garden that he would create his works, and just have all these weird like obscured statues and all that sort of thing. Like one of the things that really stood out for me was well, he was really good friends with Alice Cooper, as everyone knows,
that's
big rock
amazing.
star. Yeah, and apparently Alice went into his house and Salvador took him to a statue, and Salvador was like, the way that Salvador he talked with like strong passion and all that sort of thing. And apparently he was like to Alice, he was like, this statue is dedicated to you. And Alice was like, what, really? And he was like, yes. He was like just very passionate about it, just saying, yes, this is dedicated to you and all that sort of thing. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like it just seemed like he was strongly inspired by a lot of things, and like he did like a lot of, he even made like the one thing that I thought was really interesting, he made heads turn. Like even he made like artists like Andy Warhol and all these other pop artists, like literally when he would enter the room, he would make those artists go, oh my gosh, that's, Salvador Dali. He would literally make other artists pretty much fangirl over him when he walks into the room. So I think it would be so interesting just to walk in his footsteps to see how he would have, like how he would create, like what was in a way, like I know that we talked about him a fair bit in as well self-portraiture about his work, and we know that he dealt through a bit of trauma and all that, but walking in there, because I know that he traveled a lot around I think it was Spain, I'm pretty sure, where he did a lot of work during the surrealist movement. And so I would have loved to have like just see what how he went when it came to creating,
what was his inspiration kind of thing, and things he saw, and such a unique brain, like, and creative, and a person, like you said, if other people were sort of, when he entered the room, if he's such a unique human, just a presence. The
he
one and
demands
only.
the room.
That's right. You couldn't ignore him. Like, look at his amazing moustache. Like that moustache is legendary.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's just like you couldn't ignore someone that looked so fantastical as he did. Like, he was just a fascinating human, and I just think it just makes me happy that he existed in the world. It's amazing when you think he's just a unique being that could, we're fortunate enough to have his art to enjoy. But yeah, I can see what you're saying about, going to where he, traveling to where he traveled to, the places he traveled to, visiting his home, or seeing, there's lots of galleries when you go to European cities that have, especially when you visit Spain, his home country, you would visit these galleries, and there's just so much of his work everywhere. I mean, his work has toured the world probably, I don't know, he would be one of the top artists in terms of major blockbuster type exhibitions that tour the world.
Absolutely.
And people line up in their droves to go and see his work. So yeah, my hat off to Salvador Dali. He's definitely, good choice, Jayden.
Absolutely. So what would your number 4 be?
Yeah, so interesting that you had Venice and Da Vinci as your number 5, because for me, number 4, I actually have Michelangelo's David, which is in Florence, Italy. So, oh my goodness, I have to say it's on my top 5, but it's something, I have seen this amazing sculpture. So it's, even though it's on my top 5, I'm giving this for everyone, like for people out there listening. I really hope you get the chance to go to Italy one day and visit Florence, because that city is just like Venice. It's just magical. absolutely magical. So I was able to go there a couple of years ago in 2016, and I visited Michelangelo. It was in the evening, so I actually wrote something about my experience at the time. It was really interesting walking into the gallery because it's in this amazing gallery called the Accademia. And
Yes.
it's open till 10 o'clock at night, which was amazing. So I decided to go later in the evening, thinking it might be less people, hopefully, because these places, whenever you see these amazing works, there's always a lot of people, because people travel to see them. So basically, we got there pretty late, and when I walked into the gallery, it was relatively few artworks, and I could see David. He was the main attraction, and he was actually at the end of this long gallery, and he was framed by an archway and a domed ceiling. And I could see this massive crowd of people walking towards it, even though it was late in the evening, it was still lots of people. And once I made my way through the crowd, and I sort of got closer to David, and I actually you could see there's veins on his hands, and he had this perfect figure, amazing, perfect figure, handsome face. Like, I've seen the face so many times in books, the figure. And I looked at every angle, like I walked right around and I was staring and taking photos I took a million photos documenting what I was seeing. And I just thought, this is perfection, honestly. Like I'd seen perfection. And I just thought, this is truly, like in my mind, this is a masterpiece. This is truly a monumental masterpiece. You know how there are masterpieces that once you visit, there's so much hype around a masterpiece, and you might go and see it, and you might be a little bit, I don't know, let down. Sometimes that can happen, but I wasn't let down at all. It was like, it was just it was a really amazing experience. And thinking about Michelangelo, when he made it in 1501, and he was a long time ago. He was only 26 years old when he made it. So pretty much your age, Jayden. So such a person, amazing. It took him 2 years to make it. He worked constantly on it for 2 years but he achieved perfection, I think, and incredible that he managed to do that in 2 years. So yes, to me, even though it's a place I have seen, I would happily make that art pilgrimage again to go visit him again in the future. If one day, maybe when I'm older, I'll get to see him again.
Do you want to hear a funny story?
Yes, please.
Yeah, because when I was in Florence back in 2017, one of the things I wanted to actually go and see was David as well.
Yes.
And anyway, my ex and I at the time, we were walking the streets of Florence, and there was a line over there, and we're just like, okay, that must be for something else. Anyway, I think we approached there was a person there, and we just said, oh, so what is this line for anyway? And they're just like, oh, it's to see David. And no kidding you, it was a 3-hour long wait.
Oh, yeah.
And we're just both look at each other going, nah, we're just not going to do that. But you know what? One of the things that I thought was pretty awesome was we went into a church oh my gosh, I can't remember the church name, but I will insert the name in this video.
Yes.
But in this church, which made it so significant and special, was where Michelangelo was buried, his tombstone.
Wow.
And so for me, I thought that was quite special. For me, when I was looking at it, I was just like, oh my gosh, like the just the artist was laying here. Yeah. It's just laying here to rest. And it's just like the way that they carved out the tombstone, there was like, I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to remember, I wish I had a photo of it. I'll have to see if I do have a photo. Yeah. If I do, I'll put it in this video. But like they've carved out like symbols, like one was a paintbrush, one was like all these other things to represent him as an artist. Yeah, and I'm like, lovely. Oh my gosh, that was. So for me, I thought that was, even though I didn't get to see David, I was like, you know what, I got to see where he was buried, so that was
lovely. You're paying your respects to him, and that's pretty special. Oh, that's amazing. Absolutely. What a great story.
Yeah, so that was a really awesome experience to have that happen. Yeah. And I guess, for me, going on to number 3,
yes,
continuing from that, one thing that oh my gosh, that was the other thing. I never got to go to Vatican City. I want to see the Sistine Chapel. Yeah. Like, that's talking about Michelangelo.
Yeah.
That is a masterpiece in itself. But here's an interesting fact. I don't know if you knew this, Nick, as well, and for our listeners, that was the first ever time he painted. He had never painted before he created the Sistine Chapel. Yeah, like you look at it and you're just like, what the hell? Like he was amazing at what he did. And,
he did. Yeah. I think I've spoken about when I went to on a previous episode about my visit to the Vatican City, and when I saw the Sistine Chapel, because I just felt like it was like going into a music festival, because the number of people coming in, and there's it was so weird going through the galleries to walk to eventually get to where the chapel was, and to see Michelangelo's incredible work. And yeah, like again, is that experience of all you had to do was look up, even though there was crowds of people, you just looked up and you could see the work. You could have your own interaction with it. Like you didn't have to, so I mean the same experience when I saw David, because it's on it's kind of raised up, so you could everyone can see it. And it's such an amazing piece. It's you can see it from like while you're walking down the gallery. It's just incredible, but everyone can have their special moment with it, if you know what I mean. When whereas if there's other works that you might go and see, like if Mona Lisa is one that it's such a tiny painting and everyone's trying to see it at once. It kind of takes away from that experience. I think it's like that thing of
really did.
You know what I mean? I don't want to queue for 3 hours, or I don't want to try and like, it's difficult to see something if it's really small. But there's sorry, what was your number 3? I lost track then. Sorry.
Sistine Chapel.
So that's your number 3. Yes. No, you need to go there one day, and you definitely need to see it. Sorry, I thought we were on another tangent there for a second.
No, that's all good. I think for me, the way that you were explaining it, saying that when you walk into the room, all you see is these heads looking up, I feel like it would just be so, in a way, kind of funny, just walking into this room and having like just a bunch of heads looking up at the ceiling, because you think about it, in any other situation, that would look crazy. People would look crazy. All these random people just looking up going, you'd be going, oh my gosh, these people are mental.
Are they okay?
But then like in this situation, you're looking at something. And for me, I know that obviously this would be very hard to do. One of the things I would love to do, like, I don't know if you've ever done this, but do you know in the NGV, how you walk into, there's this room, and then on the ceiling, there are these mosaics.
Yes.
Glass mosaic on the roof.
Their Great Hall, I think it's called. Yeah. It's amazing stained glass window, which is incredible.
The same way that what I do when I'm in there, I would love to, if there was no people in the Sistine Chapel, just lay on the ground and just
oh my God, that would be amazing.
That's something that I feel like, because for me, first of all, I get a sore neck very easily just looking up. I feel like
you're thinking about the economics of this, like that's so
but then I would just love to just like lay down and just be lost in it, because sometimes I've done that in the grand hall of the NGV. Like I've literally just sat there for minutes and just kind of gone, oh crap, I'm laying on the down. No, I'm laying on the ground, not the down.
I love how they've got pillows and like kind of lounges that you can lie on, and you can, because you always see people kind of lying and looking up, and it's really nice. They invite it, I think, in a way. It's really nice. But I might just segue to, is it okay if we segue to number 3? My number 3.
Awesome. Go for it.
Cool. My number 3 is another place I visited, but I want to share this because for some reason, when I was thinking of my top 5 list, I was trying to think of places that I can definitely recommend to people, that I think, I could happily tell you, please, let's go to this place, make that journey, which sometimes is, overseas, a long way away. Mine is Angkor Wat in Cambodia.
Okay.
So I went there in 2009, quite a few years ago now. And basically Angkor Wat is this amazing place. It's early 12th century. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's just incredible. It's basically these amazing Hindu temples, and they have this incredible bas reliefs and statues of Buddhas and Devas. It's just, the architecture is amazing. Like it, how we were talking about Venice, it feels like you're stepping back in time. I honestly felt like I was stepping back into the 12th century. It was absolutely mind-boggling. So it's an amazing, huge temple to visit, and there's hundreds of temples in and around Angkor Wat. But it was just like immersing yourself, like walking around and spending the whole day. Like I spent 3 days going through all the temples, but Angkor Wat
Wow.
itself, just spending a day there and really exploring and really getting lost in a place and feeling like these amazing faces. They have these amazing carved bas reliefs. They're like these amazing faces, and these gorgeous deities that I can't believe how, exquisite they are. Just looking at them, I just think, how did they do it? Like, how do they make these
Mm,
incredible? And for many years it was covered by the jungle, so there was like vines.
mm.
It was covered, and it's only really been in recent history that people, they took away all the jungle and people have started visiting again. So yeah, definitely, if you ever have a chance, Jayden, to go to Cambodia, I highly
Yeah.
recommend going to Angkor Wat.
I definitely think like one of the things that always amazed me, like especially when you look at temples and churches and all that sort of thing that were made nearly hundreds of years ago, you just think to yourself going, gosh, like these people did not have any of the technology that we have today to create buildings. They would have literally used like pickaxes and all that,
Yeah,
like most simplest of technology to
yeah,
create these amazing temples. Like you look at temples, you look at the pyramids, you look at
yeah.
like all these other things, and you're just like, it just amazes you just how creative people have been over thousands of years
Oh
of
gosh, yeah.
creating art, and how they've been able to create these beautiful structures. And it's just, it blows my mind away every time I think about it. Like every time I've gone into an old church that says that it was built in like the 1400s, I'm just like,
Mhm.
how is that possible?
That's
you
right.
know
Like they didn't have, the tech, now we've got all this machinery that can
mm,
do heavy lifting, and these amazing things that can just drill into stone and things. But they had different, technologies that were more based
mm,
on, they were just like incredible. Just thinking about, thinking before we're talking about Da Vinci, they created these like systems, like they might have used
mm.
water and pulley systems and things. Like it
Yes.
blows my mind now. It's like, how did you do it? Like the
Yeah.
like the pyramids, like for example, the Great Pyramids at Giza, I think they took 20 years to make. So
Oh
this is a long time.
gosh.
You know what I mean? But I don't know how long it took for Angkor Wat to be built. It would have taken a long time. But yeah,
Mm,
again, but it's just like remarkable, just using simple technology based on not using machinery like we use today, but using
mm,
water and just like different pulley systems and just
yeah.
different techniques of I'm not an architect, but
Yeah.
fascinating, like absolutely fascinating. But yeah, like just again, it's one of those places that you just feel um, you feel like you've gone to another dimension in a way,
Mm.
another time dimension. So I guess, yeah, my question now is what's your next on your list? Um,
Well, I was thinking about it, and to be honest, it's
mm,
been something that I've been thinking about for a long time. And I don't know if you can classify it as an art pilgrimage. Oh, I'm far out. This is going to become a meme where I can't say this damn word. I'm so sorry
it's
for
all good.
our
It's all
listeners.
good.
Um, but for me, like one of the things I've always wanted to do is just get in the car
Yeah.
and just travel around Australia for a whole year
Oh, that'd be
and just
amazing.
photograph everything I see. For me, like every
Yeah.
time I think about it, and I always have these talks with people going, we're lucky in a way to live in a country where there's so much wilderness, there's so much
Yeah.
amazing things that to explore and all that sort of thing. And for me, like I'm a huge nature person. One
Yes.
of the things that I love watching is nature documentaries. So for me, I would love to travel around Australia, go out to the wilderness and just record everything and
Mm.
photograph everything I see. Animals, wildlife, everything, like I just finished watching with my partner, The Great Land of Oz, which is
Oh.
about the Australian outback.
Mm.
And there was like literally about all these interesting creatures. And there was this one about and this blew my mind away. There was a tarantula that lives in nature. And every now and then in the forest, it completely gets flooded. But this tarantula has adapted so well that it can breathe underwater.
Oh,
Like
amazing.
like on its legs, it creates these air bubbles on its legs, on
Oh,
its belly.
yes, I think I
And
saw that episode. It was amazing.
yeah, and like my partner and I were watching, and we're just like,
Yeah,
what that?
that's
Wow.
amazing, isn't it?
Like it literally breathes
Yeah.
underwater, and I didn't think spiders could do that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So for me, I would
nature
love
is
to go
amazing.
out. Yeah, I would love to just go out and film and photograph everything I see. And there's just so much beautiful landscapes. There's so much
Yeah,
beautiful land and forests that are in Australia, you know?
yeah,
It's
we're so
just for
fortunate.
me, I would love to just go out and do that just for like a few months, just just travel around Australia. Just, you know, that's one
Whatever
of
it
the
is.
things that I
I
would love
think
to
it's an
do.
art pilgrimage, like because
Yeah,
what you're talking about sounds like you're considering nature as art, and
yeah, absolutely.
and I think you'll come across things made by people along the way as well, like on your pilgrimage, because
Mm,
you'll find you'll find architecture, you'll find cave art,
mm,
you'll find amazing things. Like I think there was a whole lot of people are getting really nostalgic about like old motels and old little country towns and the architecture from bygone eras. So things
mm.
like the 50s or the 60s or the 80s, like people are getting really nostalgic about that. So I'm sure you'll come across and you'll come
Oh,
across artists as well. There's lots of artists that live in these country areas that you might go visit a local gallery or just see their art out in nature, because sometimes you'll see sculptures out in different places. So yeah, you'll come across a lot of art on your journey, as well as nature, which is the greatest form of
mm,
art, I think. Great, this is a great
absolutely.
choice. Oh my gosh. And I won't tell you what my number one is yet, because we haven't got to that yet, but
Go for
I
it.
think we've got some
Number two.
synergies there. Yeah, we've got some synergies for what you were just talking about. So anyway, I'll reveal that in a second. But
All
um,
good.
awesome. So I love that. I think I would love to do that one day too. Become, before I become a grey nomad, but honestly, I'm almost grey anyway. But
Ah, what are you talking about?
before I get too much older, I don't want to wait until I'm retired, because a lot of people wait to do that pilgrimage before, once
Mm,
they retire, they do it. I think I'd like to do it earlier than that. So one day, hopefully that we can both have a discussion about that more in the future and think about the places you'd like to go
absolutely.
to. But yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. So number two for me is another place that I've been to myself, but I really highly recommend to others, is the Valley of the Kings in Luxor in Egypt. Um,
Ooh. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh God, I had such an amazing experience in Egypt. I went there back in 2010. Can't believe it's been 11 years. So it was a place that I dreamt about going to since I was a little girl, and I finally got there, and it was absolutely mind-boggling. It was just as beautiful as I imagined. So the Valley of the Kings, they have temples that have been basically cut out of the soil and into the ground, tombs that have been built in the
Mm,
16th to the 11th century BC. So these are thousands of years old. They're rock cut tombs, so the pharaohs and powerful nobles are buried from the New Kingdom. Um, it's just amazing. The valley is the west bank of the Nile. It's opposite Thebes, which is modern day Luxor, and
mm,
another World Heritage Site. So um, I often look at the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and they have sites that are sites because of cultural significance, and they have sites because of their nature and environmental significance. And I one day I would really love to visit as many of those places as I can, if we when we can travel again. But yeah, that when I went down in the tomb, they kind of range in size, so they can be like a single chamber with burials, to they have really massive like complexes. But I went into a small, like they only open a couple every year, and they kind of rotated, so they keep them closed as much as possible to preserve these amazing. You
yeah.
can go inside these amazing frescoes, like these beautiful paintings. The paint looks fresh, like it looks bright, the colors are bright. you have to
Yeah.
go down these kind of like a ladder or some steps going down into the tomb. And once we got there, you have, even our breath in the space can make, and you have to be so careful of any moisture getting into the tomb. But
It's crazy, yeah.
bloody crazy. And talking about, how we were talking about the Sistine Chapel, like looking up. So going to the tomb, you look up and they paint stars on the ceiling. It was like blue sky and yellow stars painted on the ceiling. And I'll never forget, like that was a moment I just kept staring up at the ceiling. I was just amazed. I didn't know where to look. I was a bit overwhelmed. I was a bit, when you're just looking at something, you're like, I can't look at everything. Oh God, it's so much to look at. I just loved it. You only have a small amount of time down there as well, because it's a very small space. And, but I just cherished every moment I had. And I highly recommend, if you ever can go to Egypt, to really travel that country, and if you can, go down the Nile on a felucca and stay with a family. I stayed with a family in a Nubian village, which was just really amazing. But yeah, highly recommend Egypt, because the monumental statues and the Sphinx, for example, the pyramids, the architecture, the artwork, they are just such a rich culture. And so beautiful, like such a great art pilgrimage to make if you can.
Egypt. Sounds beautiful there.
Yeah, God yes. Now I'm really excited to hear your number one, Jayden. What's your number one? We're up to number one for you, aren't we?
Yes. Okay. So
big reveal.
Yes. I think for me, because I've just, being a fan of these movies, I'm just like, I just have to do this, is I would love to explore Middle Earth, South Island of New Zealand. Yes. For me, like, obviously for people who don't know, well, first of all, like, are you living under a rock? No, I'm just kidding. I'm talking about the Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
So for a bit of a backstory, so the whole movies were filmed in New Zealand, all around the country. Most of the scenes that you see of them traveling through the landscape is through the South Islands. And for me, like, I just would love to just, walk the steps of Middle Earth, walk through the landscape of where they would have filmed these locations. Because, you look at some of the scenes and they're just, oh my gosh, there's just some spectacular shots. And oh my gosh, it's just, oh man, like, just growing up watching those movies, I just always thought to myself, like, and an interesting fact for me, I did go to New Zealand when I was younger, but I was only in the North Island. So I didn't get a chance to go to the South Island. So I did see Hobbiton, so where all the Hobbit holes and all that sort of thing were.
That's amazing.
It was funny story about that quickly was I got a photo taken in front of a Hobbit hole, and as I was walking down the hill, because it had been raining the night before, I literally slipped over and slid down the hill in front of everyone, in front of my whole class that I was there.
Oh no. Were you okay?
And I was like,
it was more
yeah.
It was a pride hurt moment rather than a ouch hurt myself moment.
Yeah, I think I was just really embarrassed. I'm like, oh, okay, that just happened. Oh my gosh, that's just really embarrassing.
Well,
but yeah, definitely for me, that would be, because the New Zealand has such beautiful landscapes as well. Like, similar to Australia, New Zealand has just these beautiful green forest landscapes, and oh my gosh, you see it in Lord of the Rings.
The mountains, it's amazing.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So for me, I think that would easily take number one. Being a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, growing up with those movies, I would definitely have to put that as a number one for me, because, like,
I can understand that. Amazing. Oh man, and Hobbiton is like an art pilgrimage, because the set design is absolutely incredible. Because I've actually been there myself. I've been to the South Island a couple of years ago, and just going to the little pub that they made. Oh my God, it's like so authentic. Like, the amount of detail they put into everything, that is an incredible achievement. Definitely. So I hat off to you. And also I love that, you consider nature as sort of part of this art experience. It's like a visual experience for you. So I can see how I can see how you can consider that an art pilgrimage, because definitely, yeah, I've been there, and yes, highly recommend if you're listening and you haven't been to New Zealand, please go and visit. And when you're there, there's some beautiful places that you can see, an experience of Maori culture, which I really recommend.
Yes.
It's amazing.
I just experienced a bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So okay, drum roll, please.
Yes.
Yay. So okay, interesting that you were talking about traveling around Australia as a, you know, an art pilgrimage. For me, Kakadu National Park, and in the Northern Territory, is a place that is just picturesque and it's just exquisite. It's beautiful. I was lucky enough when I lived there in 1990, so I was quite young. I was about 9 or 10 years old. But we went to a place called, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, it's called Ubirr, which is a cluster of rocky outcrops near Kakadu's East Alligator River. And it's there's basically 3 major art sites there. So they're these amazing cave paintings. And they're amazing. I still remember seeing them, and you know, it was a long time ago now. It's 30 years ago since over 30 years ago now since I actually visited the place. And I remember there was these X-ray art, you know, kind of style paintings on the cave, which were things like skeletons, barramundi, goannas, turtles, waterfowl. There was mussels, wallabies, echidnas, and there was like the rainbow serpent. And I can sort of have, you know, my memory's fairly fresh about it, which is strange because it's such a long time ago. I can still remember seeing things. I remember walking down to where the site was, and once we got there, I was just absolutely in awe and found it was just amazing. So yes, definitely a place I highly recommend to visit. I don't remember seeing this, but apparently they have one of the paintings in the main gallery of the cave is a image of a white fella, and he's wearing a shirt and boots, and apparently they think that it was a painting from the 1880s, and it's probably an early buffalo hunter. Apparently there's also in the main gallery there's a Tasmanian tiger which has been extinct on the mainland for, you know, 2,000 or 3,000 years, so that's pretty amazing. So some of the art can be dated back to like over 1,500 years, 2,000 years. So amazing. If, you know, I think this is a place that most Australians, all Australians should go and visit, and to really understand our First Peoples. Yeah, so that's why it's my number one. And that's why I thought when you were talking about, you know, traveling around Australia, I was thinking, yeah, that was kind of on my mind a little bit too. Like I'd love to go back to Northern Territory one day. Because yeah, it left a lasting impression on me for sure. So yeah, this was a good activity. I like doing this top 5. I hope our listeners agree with us or disagree. You know, write in the comments. Let us know what's on your top 5.
Yeah,
definitely.
I definitely think it would be really cool. Like, I think we'll have to talk more, Nick, about doing some in the future. Like when we're doing other topics, maybe we could do more like top 5. And like we do have a couple of ideas that we're actually been talking about, which we won't say. Well, our listeners will just have to find out.
That's right. You have to find out.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And, you know, so we've got some really cool ideas coming up. And yeah, like as Nick said, please let us know. Is there anywhere that you would like to go? Like, is there anywhere that you would like to explore?
Yeah, definitely.
Because, you know, like, because I would love to actually hear about what other people would say, and I would even like to check it out myself, like see what they're talking about. And yeah, so I think
definitely add it to our list, like of places we want to go to one, you know, before we die, one day, or even in our minds while we're, you know, in lockdown. We can just sort of look up books online, look up images, videos, and just do a bit of you know, armchair traveling and dreaming while we're waiting to actually, a bit of escapism. So yeah, like always, thank you for listening. Thank you, Jayden, for chatting with me. It's nice to talk to you. I know we're doing this you know, remotely, like we're talking to each other through a video call, but yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do more recordings in the future together again once we can.
Absolutely.
But yeah, listeners, please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps us out to know what you think about how we're going, because we're learning every day. And hopefully you're doing all okay. Hopefully you're okay, Jayden, and you're staying safe and well and looking after yourself.
Same with you, Nick. And I just want to quickly give a shout out to, I think it was Matt. Like he was kind enough to donate to my coffee account. So thank you so much for your support, Matt. And Nick has been saying that you've been really strongly listening to our podcast and all that sort of thing. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Matt.
I'll give you a shout out for that.
Thank you. That's a great point, Jayden. Matt has been a great supporter of us. So thank you, Matt. And I'd also like to sort of have a shout out to Mark, who's also been religiously listening to our episodes and giving some feedback, which really, honestly, everyone that's listening, we're not naming everyone by name right now, but we appreciate it greatly. So thank you very much. And hopefully you like this episode, and we've got some exciting ones, like Jayden was saying, we've got some exciting ones planned. So yeah, keep listening.
Absolutely.
You. Thank you so much, Jayden. You have a good rest of your day, and listeners, have a good rest of your day too. And hopefully we provided a little bit of escapism for a little bit of your day. And we'll chat again soon.
Will do. And thanks again, Nick. Look forward to it. And have a good day, everyone.
Yeah, you too. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.